first
This
VP?
meeting is being recorded.
Oops. Oh, and what
Um,
I can ask is if you can all mute yourself, please, before we get going. Um, yeah, it looks like we're good, except for Anne is not muted.
Okay.
Um, so Chuck Klein, these are the members of the DNA Executive Committee. Chuck Klein, first VP, retired. He is retired in July 2025 from BASF Corporation with over 29 years of service. His last position was Global Development Manager for General Insect Control, which he held for 12 years. He has a Bachelor of Science in Entomology from Texas A&M University and a Master of Science and PhD in Livestock Entomology from the University of Arkansas. Ann McCabe, hands up, Ann, who is ASCA's second VP. She has a Bachelor of Science in Geology from UCLA and a Master's in Education with a technology emphasis from Pepperdine University. She is a high school science teacher at Culver City High and has been teaching for 33 years. She's taught chemistry, earth science, physics, integrated physical science, and integrated life science. Liz Bisquette, who is a former two-term ASCA president. She has Liz served in the U.S. Army, 3rd Armored Division, Military Intelligence, Electronic Signal Specialist. That's before her schooling. She has a BS in biology, a Master of Public Health, a MA, and all but dissertation in history. She worked for a lab studying muscle structure at Boston University Medical School, worked 6 years for OSHA, worked 8 years at the W.M. Keck Center for Transgene Studies at University of Notre Dame. She was teaching assistant at the University of Georgia and is now retired. Also on the executive DNA committee is Peter Hellmeister, who is not able to join us tonight. He hopefully will be onboarded soon and will be serving in the capacity of our European liaison. And then myself, I'm an ASCA director and I'm basically the project manager of the DNA executive committee. I'm a business owner with a strong background in business operations, management, and accounting. So the intent of these meetings is to walk alongside the members as ASCA prepares to transition its DNA program to VGL, which is UC Davis's lab. Tonight, we'll be discussing the contents of Phase 1, which was disseminated to the membership on December 12th, as we announced our new partnership with VGL. We will address how we got here, what this all means, where we're going, and how we're going to get there. I have a very scratchy voice because I'm recovering from laryngitis, so I am really pushing it. This meeting tonight is going to be kept to 1 hour, and there's a lot to cover. Therefore, we ask that questions be asked using the chat feature. If you scroll down to the bottom of your screen, there is a little icon that says chat. And if you click on that, a bar will pop up typically to the right, and that's where you can ask your questions. Anne McCabe is going to assemble all the questions, and we will cover as many as possible near the end. There was a link that was submitted um, along with the Zoom link for each of the town halls where you can submit questions in advance. So any questions that were submitted in advance will be addressed first. And then, depending on how much time we have left, we'll get as many questions answered as possible tonight. If we don't get to your question tonight, rest assured we will get to it, whether it is in one of the next town hall meetings. Remember, each phase, we have 3 phases of this dissemination of information. So each phase, we offer 3 different town halls. So if we don't get to your answer tonight, we will either get it in the next town hall and or we will respond in writing for the members who are not able to attend. Our goal is to have a transcription of each of these town halls available for those who can't attend or for your records to be able to go through what we covered tonight. Um, okay, let's see. How did we get here? And of course, someone texts me right before I start here. Okay, I'm going to briefly touch on the timeline. And then I'm going to hand it over to Chuck, who will discuss. He's basically going to talk about some DNA facts and vocabulary so that we can all be using the same terminology and we can all understand the terminology as we use it moving forward. And then he will go on to some of our long-term goals and the committee's goals as to what we're working on right now and our goals with the future lab. And then I will take it from there and we will talk about the logistics on how we're going to get there. Okay. So, as many of you probably already know, in March of 2019, ASCA contracted with Paw Print Genetics for DNA parentage testing. PPG used a lab called Neogen. There's a difference between a customer interface and a lab. And Paw Prints Genetics is not a lab, it is a customer interface that uses a lab. Chuck will go into that more when he picks up from here. PPG in the contract was using a set of proprietary markers. Chuck will also expand on that. In late 2023, early 2024, it was brought to the board's attention that PPG was not doing parentage verification unless you submitted a separate order. The board had a executive DNA committee at that time, and they started researching. And everybody needs to, oh, that was a spam. Now that I saw it, it was a spam. Just make sure that we're all muted so whoever's talking can be heard. Okay, let's see. So in 24, the board's executive DNA committee started researching what was going on with PPG's resulting and verifying parentage. In March of 25, the ASCA board received notice that Oravet had obtained PPG and would be taking over ASCA's account. I want to emphasize that this was not ASCA's decision or choice. It was essentially communicated to the board that PPG was going out of business and that Oravet would be taking over all of ASCA's accounts. It happened pretty quickly, and I can say you all have probably been subject to the rush behind all of it. So we weren't given a ton of notice. Oravet did promise that all the data and the tests from PPG would still be available to ASCA and the members. All the members had to, in their notification, they would be required to opt in. Uh, and we would lose connectivity with PPG in roughly 4 months' time. So ASCA very quickly urged the members to go ahead and opt into Oravet based on their suggestion. I want to point something out here that I think is very important as we start learning together. Um, the data in PPG, as well as the data in Oravet and what will be data in VGL, is not owned by ASCA. It is individually owned by each owner. And the owner then consents to release the data to ASCA for its use. It's very important that we understand that because As you are all experiencing with Oravet right now, getting your data to ASCA does not happen automatically. It needs to be released by the owner of the sample, which is the dog's owner. So I think that's very important to, we'll discuss that a little bit more in the future. Um, in, let's see, April, May, June-ish, it was then explained from Oravet that each owner had to fill out the Oravet provided release form, and that needed to be sent to Oravet via email so that Oravet could then release the data to ASCA. As Over the last several months of the latter part of 2025, it became very evident that Oravet could not handle the load that came from PPG. We started discovering that dogs needed to be retested. We started discovering that results were not accurate. We started discovering that, in fact, what was brought to the board's attention was parentage was not being automatically done. And that's when this particular DNA, well, actually, let me go back. At that time, Anne was assigned as the liaison to Oravet, and I was assigned from the board to start looking into alternative labs. Shortly thereafter, we presented our findings to Anne and I to the board, and at that time, we created the executive DNA committee that you have here now. We then selected, we did some research with other labs, and we selected VGL as being the appropriate lab. They are also their own customer interface, so they are one and the same. They are not a customer interface using another lab. So that decision was made, it was presented to the board, and the final decision was made in December. In December, we gave Oravet a 6-month notice, which is required by our existing contract with them. Even though the contract is with PPG, because Oravet assumed PPG, according to legal counsel, that contract is still legally binding. Therefore, oh, here we go again. We've got all kinds of fun guys now. Um, that's very distracting. Those weird spam things that pop up on my screen when I'm talking. Um, so we now have also in December, we signed a memo of understanding with VGL. And so when I reference VGL, that is UC Davis, but they are actually, we are contracted with VGL. So they're one and the same, they're synonymous. Um, so we now are the next and the last piece of the timeline right now that I'll describe is um, I won't get into the vernacular. I'll let Chuck do that. But I think it's important to know that for everyone to know that VGL has agreed to utilize the technology that Oravet is currently offering and is the standard, the gold standard markers that ISAG is supporting. So that puts us in a very good position moving forward. They did not offer that in the past, but they are offering that now, and they are very thrilled to be partnering with ASCA. In fact, they're already wanting to do some research on some diseases and whatnot. So that's really good news. So that's the timeline that brings us up to where we are now, and I'm going to hand it over to Chuck. to bring you all up to speed on what I just said, what all that means.
Okay, thanks, Jillian. So, as we were putting together the agenda, we thought it would be good to go back and kind of refresh everybody about the vocabulary that we'll be using and some of the other information about DNA that um, you're going to hear a lot of abbreviations, and this we hope will be helpful in uh, understanding what those abbreviations mean exactly. So I'm going to start out by talking about DNA markers, which are known sequences of DNA located at specific positions on chromosomes. And they can be used to identify individuals, track inheritance patterns, and associate specific genes with traits or diseases. And two of the DNA marker types that have been used by ASCA approved laboratories are short tandem repeats, which are abbreviated as STRs, and single nucleotide polymorphisms, which are abbreviated as SNPs. Now, let me first talk about the STRs. They are short sequences of DNA that are repeated multiple times in a row. And during the testing, these sequences are analyzed to determine the number that are in common between a parent and offspring. And if they are in common, that can be used to confirm parentage. And STRs have been used since the early 2000s. And the disadvantages of STRs are they are time consuming to score do the testing. They have relatively poor reproducibility, and it may be difficult to determine parentage between two closely related sires. Now, SNPs are variations at a single base pair in the DNA sequence, and these are the most common type of genetic variation among individuals. And during the testing, these variations are analyzed to determine the number in common between parent and offspring. And as you can imagine, if the variations are in common, then it makes it easier to confirm parentage because of that. And some of the advantages of SNPs are they are abundant, stable, and they are amenable to high throughput scoring. And the other beauty of SNPs are that scoring is comparable between labs and platforms. And one of the disadvantages is many more SNPs are required to discriminate parentage than are we required for STRs. Now, one thing I'd like to point out is SNPs and STR results are not comparable in determining parentage. And this was one of the issues with the change from Therion to PPG, because Therion was using STR panels and PPG was using SNP panels. So there was no way to kind of transfer those data from Therion to PPG because of that. Now, many of the labs these days are moving to SNPs. And as they move to SNPs, many of them are using the International Society of Animal Genetics, or abbreviated as ISAG. And they're using the panels known as ISAG 2020. And this profile analyzes 231 SNPs in two panels. And these panels are in the public domain, which allows for sharing of data between labs. There's also still some labs that use proprietary SNP panels. And of course, being proprietary, these data are usually not shared at all. And PPG was one of those labs. As Jillian said, those data that were generated in the profiles were through proprietary panels. AKC also uses a proprietary SNP panel, and that's exclusive to that organization. So, like Jillian said, the ISAG 2020 are the DNA panels that VGL will be using for DNA parentage for ASCA. So we're excited about that, to have one that's used by several labs or a number of labs. And as she said, one thing we've learned is that many of the companies in the market these days claiming to do genetic testing are just the interface with the customer. And they actually outsource the testing to a laboratory. And this just adds another layer of complexity to the process. And sometimes, you get great customer service, but you may not get such great results or timely results based on their almost being a third party in between the customer, which is ASCA, the owners, and the companies themselves. So another couple of abbreviations that I think we're all very aware of, but just wanted to um, remind everybody that when we talk about DNA CP, that means it's a DNA certified profiled registered Australian Shepherd, ASCA registered Australian Shepherd, who has been DNA profiled by an ASCA approved lab, but one or both of whose parents have not been DNA profiled by an ASCA approved laboratory. And these are straight off the ASCA website. And then when we talk about DNA VP, that's DNA verified parentage of an ASCA registered Australian Shepherd who has been DNA profiled by an ASCA approved laboratory and whose parents have also been DNA profiled by an ASCA approved laboratory. So that was the different topics I wanted to cover in DNA facts and vocabulary. I'll ask my other committee members if there's anything else they want to add to that. Okay. If not, I'll move into goals. And I think, as many of us know, ASCA's had to change DNA parentage labs several times since the inception of the DNA program, which was about 30 years ago. And these changes in labs have occurred for several reasons, including poor customer service and acquisitions of the lab or the company. So the ASCA board believed that we needed to bring stability to the program by going with a well-established laboratory. And as Jillian said, the Veterinary Genetics Laboratory, or VGL, at the University of California, Davis was selected. And if you don't know, this laboratory has been around for 70 years or so and is considered the leading animal DNA parentage verification laboratory in the world. And for these reasons, the longevity and the leading, one of the leading lab, or the leading lab in the world, and being a public entity that will not be acquired or go out of business, we believe they will be around for years to come, which makes them a great partner for ASCA. And as we move forward, we start the testing or with in the relationship with VGL. Our plan is to create and maintain an in-house database of DNA parentage profiles so they can be easily accessed, housed in one location, and a backup to the portal maintained by VGL. In the past, we've had, I guess, issues with trying to have a master database or maintain a database through the various labs that we've worked with, and this will help, maintain that data set so that if for some unlikely reason something happens, um, we will have those data and be able to access them. And the plan is for VGL to send data in a spreadsheet to the ASCA business office on a predetermined schedule, which we're still trying to work that out. And then once it's received at the ASCA business office, it'll be incorporated into this database and kept there. And then, you know, Jillian also mentioned the DNA Executive Committee, and the plan is to continue this committee composed of 3 board members, along with several technical experts. And Liz is and Peter are both technical experts supporting or on the committee. And we want to make sure there's continuity for the program and the committee. So the plan is each of the board members on the committee will be up for election or coming off the board in different years, so that we've always got 2 people that have been on, and then we'll continue to add another new person to it, and then they'll learn, and so there'll be a constant um, knowledge base on this committee. We feel like the program is important and that we need to keep that continuity going. So that's all I've got for my 2 sections tonight. And I'll turn it back over to Jillian. You're on you're on mute, Jillian.
Kala, can you see in the chat?
Yes, but I can't unmute her. She's got
There
there
we
she goes.
go.
No.
Yeah. Well, it said the host is saying that you can't unmute yourself. So I'm texting Chuck. Okay. All right. The next steps. So we talked about having these town halls in phases. Right now, what the committee is asking the membership to focus on is to resolve any outstanding issues with Oravet. Bear in mind that any new tests or any dogs retested through Oravet, that data is transferable to VGL. Basically, in a nutshell, and I'm talking slow because it's a lot of information for my brain to process. So, what's going to happen in 3 phases is ASCA will obtain the raw data per dog from Oravet, and it will be dumped into a template provided by VGL, and then the data will be transferred in that format to VGL and uploaded to the portal. Because we want this to be as fluid as possible, we don't feel comfortable waiting until the 6 months is expired to have one data transfer. So we will be having an initial transfer in February, Any updates to the data or additions to the data will be done in a second and third transfer. And the third transfer will be the last transfer provided from Oravet to VGL. Why is it important to close up any outstanding cases with Oravet? Is because we want to capture all the data so that it can easily be transferred. Each of these transfers costs ASCA roughly $500. It's not a lot, but we want to make sure that we use the transfers wisely. So while there's a lot of questions on VP parentage and there's a lot of questions on is my dad, what about the PPG stuff? We intend to discuss those topics in future phases. Right now, what we are wanting to do, because it's time is of the essence, we want everybody who has, as an example, I have a litter of puppies that the bitch I co-own, and I discovered she is not DNA'd. So I purchased a kit from Oravet because I have several months still to get her DNA'd. That data is going to be transferred in one of the future transfers to VGL and will be available for me. So it will not halt what I need to do to get my litter registered. So that's number one. That's a new kit. There are people who have purchased kits and have yet to use them. Some people will, for instance, I know several people bought a chunk of kits at the National from Oravet. Those kits need to be used before our contract with Oravet expires. As as we referenced in the information disseminated to the membership on the 12th of December, we are in those cases, we're recommending that you get those tests to Oravet no later than the end of March. That still gives Oravet some time to actually do the results, and then the data from the results will get into that transfer. The moral of that story is don't wait till the end. And I think it's important that those of you who are able to attend, first of all, you can attend the next one and the next one. If you want to attend 3 on phase 1, please do. It just makes us all smarter and wiser. But share this information with your friends too. So that's new kits, new purchase kits. That's new kits that haven't been sent in yet. And then what we are finding more and more of, there are 2 sets that fall into the next category. There are dogs that the tests have been sent. I'm sorry, the samples have been sent and results have been generated from Oravet, but the data has not made it to ASCA. Again, I want to remind everyone, the data does not belong to ASCA and until you release the findings, and it still doesn't ever belong to us. So, unfortunately, the member plays a bigger part here than not. So, a couple of things that we have discovered. First of all, this committee has provided the membership with an email. It's a DNA help desk that you basically can you can get any one of the 3 of us at any one given time. And we take the cases on rotation, but we can all see all 3 see the communication coming in from there. That is the proper place to send dog or case specific questions. So if you have sent, if you go to your Oravet profile, your portal, and you see your dog's profile, but in your ASCA portal, it's not showing that your dog is DNA'd, that means that the data has not been released to ASCA. These are a couple of things that you can do to help yourself. Your ASCA portal, you need to make sure your ASCA ID number is in there. The dog's ASCA registration number is in there. We find more than not people use the AKC registration number. And if any one of these pieces is wrong or missing, the data will not be transferred. So you need to go in each one of your dogs. So first of all, in your Oravet account, make sure your ASCA ID is in there and it's accurate. If you enter it and it's not saving, then you need to email Oravet and explain that to them, and they will enter it in the back end. Then you go to each of your dog's profiles and make sure that the dog's registration number, the E number, or I can't remember what the altered one is, an N number maybe. The registration number is accurate and the spelling of its name, its registered name, should emulate what it says on their registration certificate. Make sure those pieces of information are accurate. Then, if you have not yet sent Oravet your release form, you need to fill out the release form, email it to on the form. It will show you where to send it, but I want to say it goes to a generic Oravet desk. I recommend that you copy the DNA email address at any time you're struggling with this so that we're in the know. So you've got that information that you need to make sure is accurate. Now, there is one other thing, and I don't want to talk too much tonight about PPG, but I do want to tell you that if your data is wrong on your PPG certificate, you will need one of us in the executive committee to help you through that process because Oravet cannot modify the PPG certificates. Even if you have opted in, those certificates are now encapsulated in a PDF and they are not able to be modified. And by the way, Anne just dropped in the chat, she dropped the email address, which is dnadesk@asca.org. If anyone is struggling with getting your dogs released into the ASCA portal, it'll say next to your dog's name DNA CP or DNA VP. If that acronym is missing, that means ASCA has not received your dog's information. Reach out and help us after you have gone through those steps that I just described. Okay, what am I missing? So that is, let's see, let me just go through here. The opt-in, by the way, the opt-in into Oravet, that window of opportunity has passed now. So if you haven't opted in, you haven't opted in. And at this point, there's not anything I can do about that or we can do about that. However, when we get to phase 2, we will talk about solutions as it relates to PPG data, okay? Not now, because right now we're focusing on trying to get all the usable data pushed through Oravet to VGL, and that's what's going to be our focus for the next probably month or so. But have any of your PPG questions, you can send them to the DNA desk email, but you can also have your questions prepared for phase 2. Let's see. Let's see. I think it's probably worth mentioning that, did I already cover that the tests, so the chips, the sample chips will be available in mid-March for dissemination to the membership. What does that mean? That means that VGL is having the chips produced that they will use to test your dog's samples against. Okay. And they are making them specific for ASCA because, as I mentioned earlier, they have agreed to use the SNP technology. Okay. So they are having to get these manufactured for us, and they are due in sometime early March. And that what that means is while we could conceivably request swabs now, we want to wait until they have the chips so that when your swabs are received by them, there will be no downtime in, they don't want those samples sitting around. They want to make sure that the chips are there so that they can do the test pronto, and get those turned around. So what's going to happen is once we get once we get a little bit closer to March, probably next month, we will start sending out information from VGL on how you set up your account. But as a warning, do not order any swabs until we give you the go ahead, or you could conceivably be getting the wrong technology, which is STRs, which we do not. That's what they use now. So just hold tight. If you already have an account with VGL, we will need you to hold tight on that because eventually we will walk you through a tutorial about how you will associate or affiliate your account with ASCA so that your data will be transferred each time. That is in the coming phases, so we'll go through that in the future. Anything else that we need to share from the team before we get to questions? Am I missing anything? This is hindsight's 2020. This is a good move for ASCA. We were forced to make the move, but it's a good move for ASCA because we will have a partner for the long term, and we won't. This should be the last time we have to switch horses. We will come up with some solutions as time goes forward for the dogs that were tested with other technologies in the past, but we're not there yet. Our goal is to take this slow and steady and be methodical and do it correctly and educate the membership so that we all know what's going on because the switch with Oravet really caught everybody off guard. And we'll all be better for this in the long run. Anne, do you have some questions?
Well, no questions came up in the chat, except for getting the DNA desk email. And I can also post that again just to bring it to the top of the chart in the ASCA members group. And we did get one question from the form, and this question actually comes up a lot, and it is a very similar question to the one in the chat, which is, so if at any point you have had one of your dogs tested with any of the DNA labs and in their ASCA profile, for that dog, it says DNA CP or DNA VP, that stays. It doesn't go away. Your dog has been DNA'd. If you have any litters from those dogs that have their DNA profile, CP or VP already done, those litters can be registered with ASCA. So even though we're changing labs, even though with all of this, even though if dog tested a bunch years ago, a dog tested a bunch years ago and they're no longer around, if it has the DNA as a title on your dog, that doesn't change. That will not go away. The question that comes up a lot is how to now, or what actually needed for DNA VP, considering that we are changing labs. So as of now, only the offspring of dogs who were tested with Oravet or will be tested in the future with VGL will be able to get DNA VP. There is a misconception that, oh, both of my dog's parents have got DNA VP from another lab, and now I have this puppy. So why isn't the puppy DNA VP? That's because there needs to be readable data on file for both parents to compare the puppy's DNA to. And if that was years ago, and with the other labs, who, as Chuck was describing, then that is cannot be compared to it. So that is unfortunate. And so, but now moving forward, any dog that you have had tested with Oravet, and any dog that you will get tested going forward with VGL, that data can be used for the offspring of those dogs forever. So that is I think I kind of answered that because that's the question that has come up. The other question, since we're right in, where are we, beginning of January, is the timing of DNAing puppies or other dogs that you have, or dogs to register a litter. That you have, if you have the luxury of, oh, you have puppies and you may keep some, and yeah, you plan on getting the puppies DNA, but they're puppies, so you're obviously not going to breed them anytime soon. If you have that luxury to wait 2 months to DNA any dog, probably easier to just get it with VGL. If you are waiting on like you need to register a litter now, like puppies are going home, go ahead and order the kits from Oravet. We still have another month or two, as Jillian just said. She just sent some in because she wanted to get it done. And here's questions that came up here, that yes, Davis is going to be our DNA lab. However, Davis has health testing, and Davis is actually going to, we have talked to them about developing a specific Aussie panel for us. I think they have one now. And so they are developing that for us, and you are absolutely welcome, if it's easier for you, when you send in the DNA to VGL for DNA. If you want to get health testing done at the same time, that is just fine. It's up to you. Not required health testing. You can get that at whatever works best for you. So let's see what else came up. When we do, and when the ASCA account is set up with VGL, which, as we said, is going to be in about the next month or so, and when you can order kits from them, when you place your order, there is a checkbox that you put that this is for ASCA. And so that is how it is going to be done for VGL. That when you place the order, when you click the box for I know this is a little confusing terminology because we use it in ASCA, but it is the affiliate. ASCA is now an affiliate of VGL. So when you place the order, there'll be a checkbox for the affiliate. And so you check that for ASCA, and that will do that. So we are told it is a lot easier process than all the forms and everything like that we had to send in for Oravet. So we are, as we said, waiting for Davis VGL to get the I know the test that they are creating for us, and for them to test it. Just they want to make sure that everything is fine. And then obviously we will announce all over the place that, okay, VGL is good to go. Open an account with VGL. Send your stuff to VGL. We will absolutely let you know when that happens. So hopefully that will be a little bit easier and they can do that. Let's see what we got. So if you had a dog DNA'd with VGL or with Oravet, if you had a dog DNA'd with Oravet, you don't have to get it redone at VGL. That's what we're saying about the data transfer. So if you have a dog that has been DNA'd with Oravet, you do not have to get it redone. And that information is being transferred to VGL, will be transferred to VGL. That information will be able to be used by VGL to do parentage testing on future offspring of those dogs. So that.
Let me just jump in here real quick, and while you're going through, the data that's going to be transferred from Oravet to VGL is for DNA parentage only. What I mean by that is any trait or color or disease panels done, that is not what we are looking to transfer. You can continue to, I mean, that data is for your use. It is not required by ASCA, and you can, in fact, continue to use Oravet if you choose for those types of tests. We have already contracted with VGL to provide health panels for Aussies. But just bear in mind, when we're talking transference of data, we're specifically speaking of parentage data only.
Okay. Let's see. Let's see. So this is kind of once again what we have. So if you had a dog that was tested by Oravet and you had that dog's parents tested by Oravet. So you had a dog that got DNA VP from Oravet. Any offspring of that dog, and if the other parent of the dog was DNA'd with Oravet, then Davis can do a parentage test on that dog, and if those are the parents, I mean, and if they can verify it genetically speaking, then it would get VP. So Davis doesn't, as Liz was, I think Liz commented here, that Davis doesn't give the DNA CP designation, that the office gets a DNA profile for your dog. because the office has received a DNA profile on your dog, the office adds the title that the dog has been DNA profiled. So that would be DNA CP. If you have specifically requested a parentage test and the Oravet sends a parentage verification report to ASCA, and people were asking if they were really doing it. Yes, I have seen them. Report, then the office sees that and says, oh, here's a verified parentage, here are the parents that were on the litter, and then they give the offspring a DNA VP. So it is the office themselves that actually gives the title because of what data they have received from the lab, which was previously Oravet and is now going to be VGL. Let's see. In terms of having issues with, oh, yeah, your results are done and you still don't see anything, once again, email the DNA desk, the DNA desk email that I put there, because we can try to contact individually, try to look, and so that is what we have. So question if you can actually transfer your health data. ASCA is not going to transfer the health data because we don't need it and it costs us money to transfer data. I am just going to check one thing because this question came up. Oh, then I forget what it's called. Okay, let's see. Just want to give you guys the right answer. Okay. Okay. DNA test done by PPG. Though any parents of any offspring that you have now, if the parents were only done by PPG, currently the offspring will only be able to get CP. If you retest the parents with Oravet, if you retest the parents with VGL, then the offspring could get a VP. So just the DNA is going to be transferred to VGL because, as I said, it costs us money.
We're getting
okay.
very close to our time, so if you want to take one more question.
Well, I mean, they're coming up kind of the same.
So let me
Yeah.
just, while she's going through that, through the chat, let me just emphasize that this is one of three of the same meetings on phase one. There will be more town hall meetings for phase two, which will discuss then PPG, Certigen, navigating through the VGL portal and the logistics of setting up a new account and releasing data to ASCA. That will be in the second phase. So hopefully tonight sparks some thoughts that you have, some questions that will come up probably in the days to come. I encourage you to, first of all, thank you for attending. I encourage you to send more questions through the link that's provided so that we can start benefiting others with answers to your questions that they may not have thought of. There is not a deadline for your questions. It doesn't have to all be in one sitting. However, we do need to respect everyone's time because we are doing this meeting multiple times. So please attend again if you'd like. Be sure to attend the future phases. We will ask Kala to transcribe tonight's meeting and combine it with the next two meetings on phase one, and we will disseminate that to the membership for those who are attending, but also for those who have yet to attend, or maybe they won't attend at all. And we will have all your questions and our answers to that. We are learning alongside of you. This is uncharted territory for myself, as an example. So there are no dumb questions, and we will do our best to get answers for you if we don't have them now, and we will learn together. But this is a very good start, and your questions have all been wonderful, and we really, really appreciate you. We have this is our first town hall, so figuring out how to communicate with you guys in bulk is a learning experience for us. So thank you for your patience and being willing to ask your questions via chat, because then it allows us to maximize our time with you as opposed to getting distracted. So, Anne, unless you have any additional questions, a final question, or Chuck or Liz, if you have any final comments, we will probably call it a night. It is 5:01 here, which makes it 8:01 on the East Coast.
Yeah. No questions. They were here, and as we said, you have multiple opportunities if things you think of, and as we said before, absolutely any question you have, big or small, we will answer on the DNA desk. And we check that email all the time. Chuck and I arm wrestle over which ones we respond to.
We appreciate you guys. Help to educate your ASCA friends that aren't able to attend these meetings, because it's a very wide net and it affects a lot of people and a lot of dogs. So our goal is to do this one final time and to do it correctly. So information is our friend, and your questions help us learn. Thanks so much for joining us, and we will
Okay.
see you in phase two if we don't see you again on phase one. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone. Thanks for coming. And let us
Good
know if we
night.
can do anything for you.